The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships, or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
Your Facebook profile is a business page, but you also have to, communicate in that fashion. And I think of a kind of a funny story someone gave me today was like, and it was actually with a reel. It was like, do your first reel and it's like a wanted picture, wanted for helping people want to change, like in this specific way. So like, it was like you hold up a sign that's like, hey, I'm wanted because I'm wanted, or I'm in getting my mug shot because I want to help people change in this way, or I want to help people this way. So number one, do people know what you really want, what you can really help them with? That's the first thing that I would say. So anybody who's watching this, go back through your personal profile and look at it and say, hey, if I was someone who didn't know who I was and I showed up on my profile, would I know what I do? And that might be one of the most powerful ways you could say that. Now, if you say no, now if I went through your Facebook profile and your feed, would I find out what you do? Because those are really the two things that we look for when it comes to a client is, many times people say they're doing a form of organic marketing. And yet when they go to our profile, they have nothing that says how they help people as their like kind of billboard. And so, I want you guys to think of is you have a lot of real estate that's considered your billboard, which is kind of that backdrop on your personal profile. You have your little profile picture. Do those things represent what you do? So if I looked at those, would I have an idea of what you do for business and who you help? Now, if you don't, start there. Second place.
Jesse, before you move on from there real quick, I want to ask you, what about people who have like something really vague? And so they might look at their page and go, oh yeah, I totally do. But really it's like, I help people overcome challenges.
Yeah.
Without struggle, right? What would you say to those people?
Well, one, I would say go through the Facebook revamp guide and, really revamp your profile. I would say this, if you're going to get vague on your description of how you help people, then you're going to get vague clients, which means you're probably just not going to get any, right? And I think one thing that I think people have a misconception of is if I post content, people are just going to slide into my DMs and they're just going to become a client, right? Now, we would all love that to happen, but those days are long and over, right? We might get 1 out of 100, that does that. I can remember back in my fitness days when, we could post a testimonial or before and after, and, you might get 20 or 30 people off of it. Like those days are gone, but here's what I will tell you is people are going to go to your profile once they find out about you, your business, or you friend request them. And they're going to be like, hey, who is this, Justin guy? And they're going to start analyzing you. And so those are the first things they're going to look for is, okay, what does this person really do? How are they going to help me? Those things. And then the second piece is going to be, okay, so Justin is like, hey, we help business owners design their ideal lifestyle, build a successful 6 and 7 online revenue stream without sacrificing time, family, or money. So it's pretty specific. Hey, that we help business owners. We know that we're going to give them some type of lifestyle design and some type of business change, an online revenue stream that they're going to get into. We're going to do it without sacrificing time, family, or money. So you guys want to make sure that you're doing this, you know, and then on the left, he kind of has an intro. Hey, I help coaches transition from one-on-one babysitting to 7-figure scaling without ads or funnels. And then we get into the bio. And, you know, this talks kind of about Justin, what he's done, obviously what he's married. And then he has some links to Instagram, LinkedIn, and then also a link tree. And then you also have, you know, some of these things where we have added hobbies. You can put in results that your clients have gotten. And so that people can look through that also. So there's a lot of opportunity before they even get into your profile about what's happening. Now, here's the one piece that I'll say is I usually scroll through potential clients' profiles. I'll go back, I'll scroll into it, probably back a couple of weeks, and I'll try to get a better understanding of what they do. And so as we go through this, you know, there has to be some sort of resemblance that we know that if I looked at Justin's, do I really know what Justin does? You know, yes or no, or is it kind of still up in the air? Hey, who's that good looking guy going on your profile?
I don't know who that guy is.
but just think about it this way. If somebody scrolled through your personal profile, would they know who you are, how you help them? Would they know that thing? And most of the time I will say, you know, no, you know, even when people say they do, they don't. And so, you know, the one thing that I find is there's an expectation a lot of times that, hey, I'm going to post content, someone's just going to slide into my DMs, and that just doesn't happen. But however, if you're consistently showing up, consistently putting content out there, people are going to pay attention to you, and people are going to pay attention to you more because of your consistency than any one thing that you're going to post. And so that's something that I've kind of found for us is if I can just be consistent over any one piece of content, that's really what I'm looking to do.
Yeah. I mean, there's a marketing principle I read about from Seth Godin where he talks about like a repeated message, which is why like Facebook ad retargeting works so well. We can take advantage of that without having to pay a bunch of money for Facebook ads by continually putting a similar message out there just from different angles. That's not all you want to post about, but like Jesse's saying, being consistent with your message and showing up and letting people know like you're not going anywhere, showing your results. And then every once in a while, like every 4th or 5th post, you're putting up something that's a direct call to action or that has to do with your business. You do that for 30 days and people on your friends list are seeing like, wow, this person's showing up, they're getting results, and you're building your familiarity. So it's based on familiarity. The more familiar we are with something, the more we trust it. And so the best way to do that with your personal stuff or with your page here is just to be consistent.
Yeah. And let's talk about, you know, like, and trust. Okay. So the first opportunity I have to know you is to start looking at your profile. You know, I see who you are and think of it this way. Like my favorite analogy is I love WWF wrestling, especially back, you know, when I was a kid, because these guys were characters and you like them based off of kind of their character story and their journey. Right.
Yeah.
And so imagine yourself kind of being that same character when it comes to, you know, marketing or when it comes to your business. You have to have kind of a character profile for who you are. Like, are you someone who, you know, kind of like walks the talk, right? And so I think one of my favorite ways is to think about that as like, hey, I'm someone very regimented around habits. I want people to know me for how consistent I am at what I'm doing, no matter really what it is, right? Whether it's working out, whether it be hanging out with my wife and kids, I want people to know that I'm consistent. You know, when people are consistent, I believe people develop a level of trust because they can count on you, right? They can count on you showing up. And so that's one thing that I like is saying, okay, like, hey, you know, in my character, I'm someone who shows up consistently. I want my audience to know that. And so I'm going to push that kind of to the forefront. You know, all these guys in WWF wrestling used to carry around like a 2x4 or a snake, or they kind of had this
really
thing.
fancy coat.
Yeah. Or like, Macho Man had the glasses, the tassels, but that was like their character and they would step into it. Right. And then they would promote it. Or Hulk Hogan had his bandana, he'd rip off his tank top, but like everybody knew everybody by their character. Right. Nobody.
And we'd see them do that shit every week. And so it was like, we expected it, right? Like, right. if they were in the middle of a match and like the whole place got dark, like, oh shit, you knew the Undertaker was coming. Right. Like, if certain music came on, you knew it was gonna be Ric Flair or whatever. Right. And so, that's a really good analogy actually, because those guys were super consistent. Like Hulk Hogan didn't show up and say, all right, today, like I'm going to throw my boots into the audience. I'm not gonna rip my shirt off. I'm gonna throw my boots in the audience. He didn't do that shit. He just showed up every day. Like, it's boring, but I'm going to rip my shirt off and crowd's going to love it and go, wow. Cause that's his thing. That's his character.
And he always told people to, train hard, take their vitamins and, all those things. So he had like these taglines that he was always reiterating back and forth, and they never really got out of those. But like some of us and some of you guys are, one week you're trying to be Hulk Hogan. The next week you're trying to be like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And then the next week you're trying to be, Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South. And so you're constantly switching characters, and then you're wondering why, hey, how come my marketing is not working? How come I'm not being successful? It's because you're switching characters so many times that people don't ever have a chance to actually get to know you, like you, and trust you. And it's affecting your marketing and it's affecting your profile. You're basically trying to show up as three different people, and then you're wondering why none of them are working.
Yeah. I mean, I keep this sticky note on my desk, and I just want to point to, this is 7 influence frameworks, but one of them is consistency. Other one is social proof. Another one is liking. And then the other ones aren't quite as relevant, but I mean, 4 out of the 7 you can accomplish on social media before you even talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about something that if you give them help, right, that's authority, right? With just them consuming your content, you give them help. If you are showing the results clients get, we do this in the HBL group all the time. You're showing social proof. If you're showing up every day as the same character, that's consistency. And then of course, if all those things line up with who your ideal client thinks that they are, then that's liking. And so then, you don't have to nail the other 3 when you get on the phone, which is really easy. I like the WWE, the wrestling example, because that's really perfect. Like Hulk Hogan isn't the kind of guy to call everybody brother in his personal life and rip his shirt off every day, but he does that on stage because that's what people are expecting.
And we're not expecting you to be, WWF wrestling
right.
or whatever either. But the point is you can't show up as a different person every week and expect clients to want to be attracted to you, because there's an inconsistency of how you show up. And that would be the same thing is if a guy shows up one week, it's the same guy. Imagine if The Rock started trying to show up as Hulk Hogan, then he tried to show up as somebody else. You're like, dude, I like The Rock. I like this guy better. Like, why are you switching? And a lot of times that's what people that aren't even talking to you are thinking. That it's like, man, this person was talking about this thing last week. I really liked it. Now they're talking about something that has nothing to even do with what they were talking about last week. And then there's an inconsistency in that inconsistency starts cascading into your profile, starts cascading into your content and all through your business. And then people get unattracted to it. When they get unattracted, then it's very hard for them to build that like with you.
If you've done the work on your content, then when you chat with them in the DMs, it's way easier. Because again, you've already got those 4 pieces in place. You only need a couple more. They already trust you.
The biggest thing I see is an inconsistency in content and inconsistency in showing up on, Facebook. And then let's talk about why people, don't post, they don't do videos, they, do those things. And it's generally, what I've came to find out is generally people do not do content consistently because they start judging every single thing that they do. And so they're afraid of, I might be afraid of what Justin thinks of what I post. I might be afraid of what my mom thinks or my dad thinks. And I find that those are the things that hold us back the most when we go to put ourselves out there.
Yeah. So yeah, because I feel like people I talk to, especially folks that haven't already started posting on social media, even if they're doing it without a strategy, people that haven't started are really susceptible to that. So what do you suggest for somebody who's kind of stuck in that loop, I guess?
Let's go two ways. Okay. Number one or two is like, who's the person you think about the most when you go to post a piece of content? Like, who's the person that's going to judge you the most when you put this piece of content out? I think that we have to, it might be one or two. And I will say this, it's usually someone who's the closest to us. So it could be like a family member, like my parents, or could be like a cousin, or it may be kind of a frenemy, right? Someone who you're friends with, but they're really an enemy. And you kind of secretly want to see what they're doing, but you also secretly don't.
You don't want them to see what you're doing.
Yeah. But it's like, we judge ourselves. And so then we put all that attention on people judging us. And so what I'll say is like, you obviously have to do the work on that, but like, none of us are really that important. Right. Here's what I've come to find out. And is like, none of us are really that important. Like, nobody pays attention what you really put out on a day-to-day basis. Some people do, some people don't, but like at the end of the day, if you're doing it for likes and comments only, you're going to be really disappointed really quick.
Yeah, you can be very disappointed. I mean, dude, you never know what content is going to produce really, really good results until it's out there. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're fucking the person who invented organic marketing. You can never write something and say, okay, cool, I'm going to get 10 leads from this. You can look at like an overall, hey, my overall strategy over like a month or 2 months time is getting me this many leads. But like on an individual content basis, you really have no idea. Also because Facebook's always showing your stuff to new people who don't engage usually. If those people happen to like it and they engage, cool. If they don't happen to like it, cool. That's all data, right? I mean, I post stuff all the time that I think in my mind, in my ego, I'm like, oh yeah, this will crush. And then it doesn't. That doesn't stop me. It just tells me, cool, that my audience didn't like that, or it was a bad time to post, or there's all kinds of ways you can analyze it, but don't get caught in thinking like, I'm not good at this, and so I should never do it anymore because people aren't engaging. There's so many variables that you probably don't even know or can appreciate that's causing people not to engage.
The best analogy I can give you on variables is, okay, so let's say, we're doing a push-up, right? And we'll say that push-up is pushing a piece of content out. Okay, so let's say a push-up could be really easy, right? And let's say putting a piece of content out is really easy. Now, where we start adding in variables to the push-up is maybe we have you pause, maybe we have you, hold it at the top, maybe we have you add weight, maybe we have you add, volume, maybe we don't give you a lot of rest. So those are all variables. But if we only looked at the push-up, we may think, oh, that was really easy. But now we start mixing in variables and all of a sudden it becomes more difficult, or it completely changes the exercise around. So my point is this: if we go to a piece of content, there's too many variables that we can change around to either add more likes, add more comments, or add or get less. And so sometimes what happens is we don't understand the variables, and then we can't figure out why my audience isn't doing this. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes people will write a quote on a colored backdrop, and it may be, let's just say it was like a positive motivational quote.
Yeah,
well,
I did that the other day.
not a lot of people are going to respond to it, but if you ask a question, and it could be a similar around the quote, but you ask the question, more people are going to respond to it because you asked the question. It wasn't just kind of a positive woo-woo, type quote. And so the difference is they seem very similar, but because of the variable of what we're doing and the outcome, then it's much different, right? And so I'm not saying one is better than the other, but just realize that when you're posting content and you're putting content out there, the times I think, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing, everybody's going to respond to it, are usually the times where nobody pays attention to it. And then the times where I'm like, I'm just going to throw this out there because I think I don't really care. I'm just going to throw it out there. And then everybody responds to it. So we don't always know. But what I do know is consistency, and you showing up every single day is the number one thing that is going to get you over your fear. It's the number two thing that's going to get you results is that, and I'll give you guys an analogy. Like since the beginning of the year, I've done a video every single day, except I think 5 times. Okay. And today's day 65. So that means since the beginning of the year, I've done a video every single day on my personal profile, 60 of 65 days. Now, I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you that because I saw myself kind of relax last year and not do as many videos. And then when I would go to do them, there was a lot of resistance to it. And I'm like, you know what? Why is there so much resistance to that? Well, it's because I hadn't been doing them consistently. And so I wanted to reestablish this year that I was going to get back into doing videos consistently. And, you know, again, my place wasn't to be perfect, but it was to do them consistently. And I'll tell you, like yesterday, I think I missed one because usually what I do is I work out. And then I do one right at the end of my workout because that's when I feel like my best and I'm kind of in that peak state. But yesterday I went on a walk. I didn't come to the gym, which is what I usually do. And then I kind of was like, oh, I'll just do it later. But like, that's how we think a lot of times. And then too many other variables get in the way. Here's what I'll tell you with your habits, even when it comes to posting content, is later in the day, there's more stories, there's more friction when it comes to doing anything than earlier in the day. And so the more the times that I've missed, the 5 times I've missed, it's all because I didn't do it in the morning that day. It was because I said I would wait until later and do it. There's even been a few times where I literally like forced myself at like 5 p.m. at night. I was like, all right, I'm sitting down. I'm not doing anything else until I get this video done. But the days that I've missed is the days that I didn't do it in my normal routine. So
that's really interesting. And I mean, as far as the habit stuff, you kind of have to start thinking about, hey, posting on social media with the strategy that we give you, it has to become a habit. It can't be just something that you're doing to get leads. It has to be, hey, this is something. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think people need to change their identity a little bit to be someone who posts on Facebook, or, you know,
let's talk about this, because I'm actually working on this right now anyways, but let's just use this thing. So let's say my behavior is I want to put content out on Facebook. That's my behavior equals MAP. Okay. So motivation, ability, and then prompt. Okay. And so when we reverse engineer some type of behavior or habit, most people start with motivation, right? And that's what screws them up. Hey, I'm just not motivated to post on Facebook. Okay. So then they stop there. Okay. So what I say is like, listen, let's look at a prompt. Okay. So the behavior I want to change is I want to be a marketer, or maybe I want to put content out, right? That's my behavior. My identity is I'm a marketer, you know, I'm a business owner, all these things, right? And so identity sits above this behavior and map. So if I want to be a marketer, I got to change my behavior on how I show up as a marketer. And so most people will start with motivation, which motivation is important, but it's not the most important. We have motivation, we have ability, and we have prompt. So what I have to do is actually change my prompt to get me to post. So for me, my prompt is I work out. Immediately after my workout, I then post a video. And so what that can be considered is, okay, so my prompt is my workout. After my workout is done, I will shoot my video. So do I have the ability to put a piece of content out? Yes or no? Yeah, we all do, right?
Yeah.
Where's my motivation at once I've done that? Well, my motivation is going to be higher. And so there's these 3 things play a key role in what you're doing. So it maybe in the morning after you haven't done anything, maybe your motivation is really low. Like my motivation would be really low in the morning if I hadn't worked out to go do a video, right? But my motivation is way up here once I've worked out, my motivation's way up here to shoot a video. Now, what changed? My prompt on my workout, my ability. Now I feel like my mind's flowing. I'm more in a flow state. Now my motivation is at a very high level. But if my motivation's down here, I'm not going to probably do it because why? Because the motivation's too low. Okay. So I have to raise that motivation up to here, and I start with a prompt, and then I get into ability. Do I have the ability to do it? What are things that I have to be able to do in order to make this happen? And then that pushes my motivation level up. And then now the behavior changes. That's kind of the scientific way of looking at it, right?
Okay.
It may not make sense, but when our motivation is high, because of the ability, because of the prompt, it allows me to do this habit more. And so what I'm doing is I'm stacking a habit, okay, that gets me into a different state. Okay. So that's my prompt. When I finish my workout, okay, my ability is high because I've been doing videos, right? So my ability is gaining ground, and then my motivation is high. Now, if you think about what I did yesterday, is my prompt was different. I went on a walk. My ability was kind of like my whole routine was kind of thrown off, and then my motivation was low, and that's why I didn't get it done. Okay. And so what I'm saying is when it comes to this, find what works for you when it comes to putting content out. And so what I would say is find something in the morning that kind of boosts your energy up. Whether it be working out, going on a walk, maybe it's meditating, maybe it's reading, and then start going through, hey, here's my prompt. Here's my ability. Here's my motivation level, because if it's still down here, you're still not going to post or do what you want, or at least you might do it for a few days, but you'll fall off. And that's generally why we fall off, is because our motivation starts to plummet after we've done those other things.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I find when it comes to content, like if I read something in the morning, that's usually what I want to talk about. But if I don't read something, then I sit down to write. It's like, that's when I write the stuff that isn't all that great. My prompt and ability were not the same, right? Just sitting down to write content, I'm just going off pure motivation, because in my mind, I'm like, this is my job. I got to do this, right? But without the other two, it makes it a lot harder. And then also the product isn't good either, right? Like I did an experiment actually last week where I took one of my memories word for word, and I just copy and pasted that memory from 2 years ago, got, over 40 reactions and a bunch of comments. I copy and pasted it, same exact memory, or same exact text. It got no comments and 6 reactions, same exact content. So really it also depends on what's coming behind it. And I think there's an energetic level there too, if we get into the woo-woo stuff of what's being produced from that flow state versus what's being produced from a state of like obligation, right? Like I copy and pasted that because that's like, I got to have something today, and I didn't do my reading, and I didn't know what to write about. I wasn't in, just like what you said, right? Like you're going on the walk, you're not in the same mental state. You're like, I'll do it later. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to do it later. I'm just going to do this because I want to get it done. Not the same thing as making a video, but the product and the energy behind it are the same. So set up a routine for yourself. Again, like this is something that you need to be doing every day. So set up a routine for you. Mine is I read, and then I think about what I want to post, and then I post it. That puts me in the right state, right? Jesse's is I work out hard. I'm in a flow state. I make a video at the top of my energy, and there we go. So if he doesn't work out, he knows there could be a lack of execution on that, right? So you can either find a way to make that happen, or get back into that state. So I think that's great. That makes a lot of sense.
A cool thing too is kind of like having a habit recipe, right? And so a cool habit recipe would be like, for me, after I work out, I will do this habit. And so, you take the habit you do consistently, and then you take the new habit you want to do, and you would say, okay, after I do this habit, then I will do this, right? And so for me, after I work out, I will record a video. That's my habit recipe. Okay. And so you guys can think about this for you is what is my actual recipe for my habit? Now, two things. One is I find myself, even with that, is, you know, my number one kind of stickler when it comes to a habit is like reading the Bible. I don't know why, but it's the one I found that I probably would put off the most. So I've had to stack it in front of my workout because my natural tendency is a workout, I'd be like, all right, dude, I'm going to crush it. Like, you're not going to stop me. But now my buy-in to my workout is actually read my Bible. Okay. So that does one of two things. That forces me to read my Bible, then get into my workout, right? Because I'm like, dude, I'm not missing my workout. If you have a hard time doing it and that recipe is not working on the front end, you can always change the recipe and do it. Hey, before I work out, I will read my Bible. Because think about it this way, is like recipes, my recipe gets me a result that I want. And sometimes our recipe just isn't working for us. Right. And so recipe, we have to change up some of the ingredients, right, in order for me to get a different result. And so my results weren't working for me as far as, hey, here's a result I want. I want to read my Bible and, you know, I want to be more spiritual, whatever it is. But like in the recipe that I had, it wasn't working. I was missing. So I changed up the order of the recipe. So, you know, sometimes cookies, you melt the butter, you put some sugar in and you blend it up. Right. And then you start adding other things. Well, I had to start changing up some of the initial recipe so that I could get the result, the consistent result I wanted. And so I started stacking it in front of my workout, and that forced me to actually have to read the Bible to earn my way into my workout, which is another way to kind of do it. It's called a reverse habit stack. But guys, there's all kinds of ways that you can do some of these things. Now, here's the other thing is a lot of this stuff is available to you in the habit journal. So if you're not, if you're like, dude, where's all this stuff coming from? It's actually in the habit journal. It'll tell you how to do this stuff. But even for me,
in the blueprint.
Yep. Even for me, I'm telling you, like, hey, I'm not 65 of 65. I'm 60 of 65. There's a couple other things I miss, but I could care less about it because I'm looking at it as like, okay, well, what about 365? Like how many of these things that I miss 365 days out of the year? I know if I'm 90%, I'm most likely crushing it in all these areas.
Dude, if you're 50%, really think about that, right? Like that means throughout the year, you made 180 videos. That's one every other day on average, even if you're 50%. And I think a lot of people get caught up in this too, Jesse. I know I do, right? Where like, I want to be perfect because I think so highly of myself, right? And so when I'm not perfect, it really fucks with me. And so I had to learn how to say, hey man, like even if you don't get it done the way you want it done, or it doesn't happen or as often as you want to happen, it happening more like, okay. So a good example, actually, when I was really learning how to work out, I was doing strong lifts 5x5, right? It's a powerlifting regimen. And there were some days, dude, where I get to the deadlift section and I just be like, no, I'm done. And I would just leave. I'd be like, I'm done with this workout. Like if I'm toast. I feel horrible. Like my central nervous system is fucking going off the chains. Like I'm done. And I would leave and I'd get in the car and be like, nah, you motherfucker, you could have made that. You could have done those deadlifts, dude. Like it's only 5 reps. You could have done it. And so, but then I was like, no, I'm not beating myself up about that. Right. Because I still got there. There's even days where I would get to the gym, go inside, change, go upstairs, look around and leave. And so my mind was trying to tell me like, you're not cut out for the gym. Don't do that. Like obviously you can't make it, but it's like, well, wait a second. What about yesterday or 2 days ago where I had an incredible workout? I walked out here feeling like $1 million. What about that? Right. And so when you come to your content, you post something and you look at it and you're like, oh, this one only got 5 likes. Yeah. But what about the one you posted last week that got 40 likes and 40 comments? Quitting at it and letting that use you as a reason to say, I'm not going to show up and put content out anymore is more harmful for you. Even let's say Jesse missed, I don't know, in this case, like let's say you missed 3 months in a row, right? It's still better to hop back on and start doing it as soon as you realize that you've been off, right? And keep going because again, even 50%, shit, dude, even 30% would be 120 videos. You make 30% of your goal. Most people would consider that a failure, but how many people do we know, especially folks that might be watching this call, that made 120 videos last year?
Yeah, not many, not any. They might say they did 5.
Right.
Here's the thing, guys, is like, I'm not telling you to be like me. I'm not telling you to do any of that. What I am telling you is that if you don't start putting yourself out there, it's going to be harder and harder to do that. And here's what I've found. Not doing videos for 3 months is a lot harder than doing videos for 3 months consistently. Here's why, because once you stop, there's way more stories that creep in that you'll go do it to try to go do it again than it is just to keep doing it. And it's one of the things that I found out is, hey, I've been working out since I was 12 years old. That means, 32 years I've consistently worked out. I can say in that amount of time, the most time I've ever maybe taken off is a month, if I'm lucky. And it's probably happened once or twice. My point is I developed a consistent habit of what I wanted to do because I knew the end result I want. And if you're just posting the post, don't be surprised if you're not motivated to do it. But like, if you have an end result you're working towards, like, hey, my number one goal is to be consistent so that I can start getting in consistent new revenue, new business. And I have to show up. And there was a period of time where I thought, well, shoot, if I just post content, someone's probably going to magically want to work with me. Now, once I realized that didn't happen, and I had to be more strategic, then I began to do that. Now, I didn't have what you guys have access to in here, back in 2014, 2015. So I was kind of like naive. I'm like, hey, I don't know why people aren't like just coming in and wanting to do business with me. But now you guys have that skill to do that. And so the only thing stopping you from getting results is really you and your inconsistency and how you show up every single day. And that's the number one thing that's going to hold you back from getting results in this program or just anywhere. And that's what I've found and figured out is like, how do I just be consistent at really basic things? Because those are the things that are going to help me get the results I want.
Yeah, being consistent at something basic is way easier than being consistent at something that's complicated and has multiple steps. Way easier for your mind to defeat you in terms of that. I mean, going back to weightlifting, there's been times where I've hurt my knee and had to like completely restart over with weight and work my way back up. But what I realized in doing that is just the fact of getting in there and doing the exercise and then also kind of researching and getting help and opinions from people who know what they're talking about has helped me in ways that you can't predict. Doing the thing helps you in a way that someone who's an expert can't help you. Right. Because you can see like your audience is unique. What works for your audience might not work for our audience. But as you post more, and Jesse can attest to this, as you post more, you'll start to learn what they like. And as you watch what you're putting out, like, I don't have as good of a pulse on my audience because I've changed it like so many times. And I changed it, just a few months ago, really with HPL. And so you have to do that sometimes. Right. But over time, I know that if I keep posting and keep looking at what people are saying and how they're interacting and what posts do better, I'll naturally get a feel for what they like. And you can't get that any other way. No one could look through my friends list and say, oh, this is what you should post. This is what these people will like. What we can do though, is here's a strategy of what coming up with to post and a commitment to posting every day, and to have the right intention of providing value and setting myself up as an authority. I can commit to those things, which are basic things. Make a post, see how it does, respond to all the comments, right? Go respond to other people's shit. Message people in the DMs, message people that show I can do those small basic things. And what's crazy is the small basic things will lead you to a complex understanding over time.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So let's wrap this up today. If you guys are watching this, just type in, your biggest takeaway, what you're learning from this, and then what are you going to do with this call? We talked a lot about, obviously, developing that habit of consistency. We talked a lot about different things on here, but I want you guys to really work on, number one, like showing up consistently, because, if you don't do that, nothing's going to work. And so if there's anything that you could take away from this call is you got to show up if in business consistently, you got to show up as a parent, as maybe a spouse or just in your health and fitness, if you want to be successful at something, no matter what it is, you're going to have to show up consistently in doing it. If you want to see that success, if you don't, that's cool, but just don't expect to be successful at something that you're not consistent at.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, guys. Well, hey, if you have any questions, we would love to have you guys reach out. And we appreciate you guys being in here, listening today. And you can always hashtag replay. Let us know you're watching the replay, and we'll talk soon.
Talk soon, guys. Crush it.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse